Let's get brutally honest for a moment. You've been lied to. You've been told to be the nice guy, to constantly chase, to put her on a pedestal. But what if everything you thought you knew about attraction was actually pushing her away? What if the harder you try, the faster she runs? This isn't about blaming anyone. It's about uncovering the raw, uncomfortable truth about female psychology that nobody dares to tell you. Let's start with a disturbing truth most men aren't ready to hear. The more you chase her, the more she runs. The more you show her your heart, the faster she loses interest. And the moment you start treating her like a queen, she starts looking for another kingdom. It's a bitter pill to swallow, isn't it? If you're a man who's tried to be good, respectful, loyal, and emotionally available, only to be ghosted, ignored, or placed firmly in the friend zone, then this video from Stoic Love is going to rattle your beliefs to their core. Because whether you're ready to accept it or not, modern dating doesn't reward men who are kind in the way you might think. It rewards men who are cold, distant, and yes, sometimes even a little hard to control. Now, let me be clear. This video is not an attack on women. This is not about blaming women for their preferences or demonizing anyone. Absolutely not. This is about understanding what really drives female attraction on a deep, almost primal level. It's about empowering you, as a man, to stop feeling confused, broken, or bitter about why things never seem to work out when you're at your most vulnerable, when you're giving your best. Because here's the truth, no one told you directly. Women don't inherently want to be treated badly. Let's be very clear about that. But they are profoundly, often unconsciously, attracted to men who don't make them the absolute center of their entire world. They say they want respect and kindness, and most genuinely do. But when you give it too easily, without boundaries, without purpose, without a strong sense of self-respect, it doesn't register as genuine value in their eyes. Instead, it tragically registers as weakness. Let's go deeper into this paradox. We live in an age where men are constantly bombarded with messages to open up, be more emotional, treat her like a princess, make her your top priority. But when you follow that script, when you meticulously adhere to those well-meaning but often misguided instructions, what usually happens, she gets bored. She starts pulling away. She disappears. Or perhaps most painfully, she tells you, "You're just too nice. You're like a brother to me." Or, "You're always there," as if your consistent presence is somehow a flaw. Let me ask you something, and I want you to genuinely reflect on this. Why do so many women, even intelligent, well-adjusted women, seem to chase after the man who barely calls them back, who ignores their texts for hours or even days, and who seems to care more about his own goals and ambitions than her attention? Is it just bad luck on your part? Are all women broken in some inexplicable way? Or is there something far deeper going on here? Something buried in our ancient psychology, in primal instinct, in the very essence of attraction itself? Here's the uncomfortable answer, the one that might sting a little. A man who doesn't need her attention, a man who isn't desperate for her validation, paradoxically becomes the most valuable and attractive man in the room. Now, don't get it twisted. This isn't about being toxic, manipulative, or intentionally emotionally unavailable. This is absolutely not about becoming a jerk or playing mind games. This is about one fundamental concept: value perception. Women are biologically wired and socially conditioned to a degree to be drawn to strength, to mystery, to self-sufficiency. They are not drawn to emotional neediness, to over-explaining every thought and feeling, or to insecurity disguised as overwhelming love. Think about it this way. When you treat her like you've already won her over, before she's even had a chance to earn your attention, your respect, your affection. She doesn't feel excited. She doesn't feel challenged. She feels in control completely. And here's the kicker. Attraction often dies a slow, silent death when certainty becomes too predictable. You see, most men today are taught, from a young age, to be pleasers, to accommodate, to put others' needs first. But here's the stark reality. Women are attracted to men they have to earn. She doesn't want to be your therapist, constantly listening to your insecurities and worries without you having a solid foundation. She wants to feel something when she's around you, a spark, an energy, an electric tension. She wants unpredictability, a sense of challenge, the potential for growth, not just comfort, stale routines, and passive admiration. In fact, here's a brutal psychological insight that might be tough to hear. The moment a woman knows she completely, irrevocably owns your mind, your thoughts, your emotional landscape, she starts losing respect for you, even if, on some level, she loves the attention you shower upon her. And yes, that sounds incredibly unfair. It feels unfair. But attraction was never designed to be fair in the logical sense. It's primal, it's emotional, and it certainly doesn't follow your rational logic. That's why the man who treats her like an option often becomes her obsession, the one she can't stop thinking about. While the man who treats her like his absolute priority often becomes invisible, fading into the background of her romantic considerations. Again, this isn't about playing games. This is about understanding polarity, the fundamental masculine and feminine energies that drive attraction. The masculine attracts the feminine not by seeking validation or approval, but by standing rooted, unshakable, in its own purpose, its own direction. And when a man gives himself away too easily, emotionally, sexually, mentally, before he's even decided if she's truly worthy of that profound investment, he flips that polarity. He becomes the chaser. And women, by and large, do not chase men who are already chasing them. What makes this even more controversial, more difficult for many to grasp, is that many women themselves don't consciously realize this. They'll articulate that they want a kind, loyal, emotionally present man, and many truly believe it with all their hearts. But their actions, their deepest emotional responses, often show something different. They respond to tension. They respond to status, not just monetary, but social and personal. They respond to mystery. They respond to men who make them feel a little unsure, not insecure or anxious, but challenged in a healthy way. If that hurts to hear, good. It means you're finally waking up to a deeper truth. It means you're ready to evolve. So what's the solution then? Should you become cold, distant, and manipulative, a caricature of the bad boy? Absolutely not. That's not the path of a high-value man. But you must become a man who values himself first, so deeply and authentically that no woman, no matter how beautiful or charming or captivating, can distract you from your core purpose, your mission, your chosen path. And when you do that, when you embody that self-respect, something profound shifts. She'll feel it, she'll respect it, and yes, she'll want to be around it, because women don't want men who don't value them at all. They are powerfully attracted to men who don't overvalue them before that value has been truly earned. It's time to stop being the man who gives away everything. His time, his energy, his emotions, hoping for love and acceptance in return. And it's time to become the man who gives nothing away until he knows exactly who she is, what she stands for, and if she's even worthy of his precious time and profound energy. Let's get into why this happens. and more importantly, how to shift your mindset, your energy, and your entire presence to become the kind of man women don't just want. They respect, admire, and desire. Nice guys finish invisible. Let's get one thing straight, right here on Stoic Love. Being nice in the way most men are taught doesn't make you attractive. In fact, more often than not, it makes you utterly invisible. This idea might make you deeply uncomfortable, especially if you've been taught your entire life that kindness, politeness, and constant availability are the golden keys to a woman's heart. But here's the raw truth that no one had the guts to tell you. Just being nice is not enough. It's a baseline, not a differentiator. In fact, it's often the very reason why you get overlooked, ignored, or swiftly replaced. Now, understand this crucial distinction. Being a good man, a man of integrity, respect, and empathy, is absolutely not the problem. Respect, loyalty, genuine empathy, strong character. These are indeed traits of high-value men, traits that build lasting, meaningful connections. But when you become a nice guy, in the detrimental sense, the type who's constantly trying to please, who never disagrees, who bends over backwards and sacrifices his own needs for women he barely knows, you don't look strong. You don't look confident. You look desperate. And desperation, my friend, is profoundly repelling. Certainty, that quiet, unwavering confidence in who you are and what you stand for, that is attractive. Think about it. The guy who texts her good morning every single day, without fail, while she barely bothers to reply. The guy who buys her expensive gifts, always pays for everything, even though they're not even officially dating. The guy who says yes to every single favor, always ready to drop everything and drive across town at 11 p.m. just because she asked. She might say thank you. She might even say, "You're so sweet." But inside, often subconsciously, she's losing interest with every single act of blind devotion. Why? Because you're not being genuinely nice in her eyes. You're being needy. You're communicating that her approval is more important than your own time, your own boundaries, your own self-respect. And in her mind, if you're doing all this for her, showering her with unearned attention without her having to exert any effort, without her having to earn it, what does that say about your standards? What does that say about your value? It screams that you're trying to buy her affection. It suggests you don't have other options, that you're willing to settle for anyone who gives you a sliver of attention. That, my friends, is not attraction. That's a plea for pity. Let's take it to the real world with a quick story. There's a guy, let's call him David. David was, by all accounts, the perfect gentleman. Always held the door open, complimented her constantly, told her she was beautiful every chance he got. He'd cancel plans with his friends just to hang out with her. He'd send long, heartfelt paragraphs telling her how special she was, even though they weren't even in a committed relationship yet. At first, she smiled. She said he was so different from other guys. But 2 weeks later, she stopped replying altogether. When he finally managed to get an answer about what happened, she simply said, "You're just too nice, David. I need space." He was shocked, hurt, profoundly confused. How could being good push someone away? Here's the truth. David didn't realize. He gave her everything, his heart, his attention, his emotional availability, before she even knew if she wanted it, before she had invested anything. There was no mystery, no challenge, no natural polarity to build upon. She didn't feel like she had to earn his affection, and what comes too easily, too freely, often goes utterly unnoticed or unappreciated. You see, women don't want men who hand over their entire heart on a silver platter to strangers or even to casual acquaintances. They want a man whose attention means something, a man who knows his worth, a man who gives not out of fear of losing her, but from a place of genuine strength, knowing he doesn't need her to feel complete or validated. The nice guy operates out of fear. He's afraid of rocking the boat, afraid of being rejected, afraid of being seen as anything but sweet and agreeable. So he hides his real opinions. He avoids confrontation, even when it's necessary. He becomes agreeable to a fault, a chameleon blending into her every desire. But here's the cruel twist of fate. The more he tries to avoid rejection, the faster it inevitably comes. Because women are not looking for emotional doormats. They want to feel something, a spark, a powerful presence, a man who can say no and genuinely mean it, a man who stands for something. When you're too agreeable, you kill the tension that's essential for attraction. When you're too available, you remove any semblance of the chase, of the pursuit. When you give too much, too soon, she doesn't see generosity, she sees insecurity. So what should you do instead? It's simple, but powerful. Set boundaries. Hold your frame, your sense of self. Speak your truth, even if it might cause a momentary disagreement. Being kind doesn't mean being spineless. Respect her, absolutely, but never worship her. Support her, yes, but never abandon your own priorities and purpose to do it. Appreciate her, celebrate her, but never, ever pedestal her to the point where she becomes your everything. When she sees that you have standards, when she senses that you value your own time and energy, a subtle but significant shift occurs. She starts asking herself, why is this guy not chasing me like all the others? Why do I feel the need to prove myself to him? That, my friends, is when genuine attraction begins to ignite. Not when you desperately try to win her over, but when you make her wonder if she's even won you. Here's the profound irony. Women inherently respect the men who respect themselves first, not the ones who hand over all their power in hopes of being chosen. Being a nice guy might get you a few polite compliments. It might get you a few polite smiles. But it will never, ever get you genuine desire. Because women don't chase men who are already emotionally available, completely transparent, and fully invested before they've done anything to truly deserve it. They chase men who know their value, who command respect, and who inspire her to rise to meet that level. So stop being nice, just to be liked. Be real, be grounded, be bold. And when you do that, when you embody authentic self-respect, she'll start seeing you not as the invisible nice guy, but as the compelling, magnetic man she never saw coming. She wants to feel uncertain. Here's something most men profoundly misunderstand about attraction, a truth often overlooked by traditional dating advice. Certainty in excess kills excitement. You might think that by constantly reminding her how much you care, how much you want her, how much you're always there for her, you're building trust and security. But often, you're actually draining the one thing that keeps her emotionally invested and deeply engaged. A healthy, subtle dose of uncertainty. Now, hold on. I'm not, for a second, saying you should play games, deliberately lie, or become manipulative. This isn't about fostering anxiety or creating toxic mind games. It's about understanding one of the core, often subconscious drivers of emotional attraction. The thrill, the slight edge of not knowing everything. When a woman is genuinely unsure of how you feel, not in a toxic, wishy-washy way, but in a grounded, masculine, emotionally balanced way, her mind stays focused on you. She's thinking about you, questioning, wondering, replaying moments in her head. She's engaged. But the moment she knows exactly what you'll say, exactly how you'll react, and exactly where she stands with you, with absolute, unwavering certainty, she mentally checks out. The game, for her, is over. Let's break this down simply, in a way that makes sense. Men, by and large, crave stability and predictability in relationships. Certainty, for us, often feels like control and comfort. But for many women, while security is important, too much certainty can quickly feel like boredom. She doesn't want a man who makes her feel anxious or unsafe. Absolutely not. But she also doesn't want a man who's too easy to figure out. A closed book with no intriguing pages left to turn. You see, a powerful dimension of attraction lives in the unknown, in that subtle space of what if. When she feels a little uncertain, a healthy kind of uncertainty, mind you, her emotions get activated. She's excited, curious, tuned in, constantly wondering about you. But when she knows she already has you completely, when there's no tension, no mystery, no edge to the relationship, she slowly but surely loses interest. The emotional fuel simply runs out. Let's look at a relatable story to illustrate this. There's this guy, let's call him Tunde. Tunde met a woman he really liked. On their first date, he was cool, confident, genuinely fun. She laughed. She flirted. She was genuinely into him, you could see it. But after that date, something subtly switched in Tunde. He started texting her every hour, sending long, emotional messages, heart emojis galore, telling her he hadn't felt this way in a long time, telling her he was already imagining a future together, even asking why she hadn't replied after just 10 minutes. At first, she was flattered by the intensity. Then she got quiet. And within a week, she was gone, ghosted. What happened? Tunde made one critical mistake. He removed all uncertainty. She didn't have to wonder how he felt. She didn't have to work for his attention, his affection, his emotional investment. She didn't have to think about him because he was already thinking enough for both of them. He gave her every answer before she even asked the question. And without realizing it, he made himself emotionally predictable, his every reaction laid bare. Here's the deeper truth, and it's profound. Women don't fall in love with men who explain everything. They fall for men who make them feel something. That means you don't have to constantly prove your intentions with excessive words or gestures. You don't have to send paragraph-long texts explaining your every thought and emotion. You don't have to answer every call instantly or always be available at her beck and call. Instead, you have to remain centered, composed, and primarily focused on your own life, your own purpose. And when you do that, she starts wondering why you're not chasing like the others. She starts leaning in. She asks herself, what's going on in his mind? Does he like me as much as I like him? Why does he feel so different? That's when attraction deepens and intensifies. Not from trying harder to impress her, but from doing less, being less reactive and simply being more of who you truly are. Now, let's be absolutely clear again. This doesn't mean ignoring her or being deliberately rude. It doesn't mean being hot and cold or emotionally absent, which are manipulative tactics. It means this: stay unpredictable by staying rooted in your purpose, your mission, your values. Don't drop everything the second she calls. Don't overshare your deepest feelings and vulnerabilities before she's shown you who she really is and earned that trust. Don't be so eager to lock things down and define the relationship before the connection has had time to build naturally and organically. Let her feel the process. Let her experience the space. Let her desire grow in that fertile ground of genuine connection, not forced intensity. Because desire doesn't grow in an environment of constant pressure and relentless pursuit. It grows in curiosity, in anticipation, in that delicious tension of the unknown. And that curiosity, that tension, comes from her not knowing exactly what you'll do or say next, not because you're playing games, but because you're a man of depth and purpose. Here's a powerful mindset shift you need to make, a metaphor from the Stoic love philosophy. You are the mountain. She is the weather. The mountain doesn't move, doesn't chase, doesn't react hysterically to every shift in the wind or the rain. It stands firm, focused, grounded, majestic, and it's that unshakable presence, that solidness, that draws people in. When you remain emotionally stable, when you don't give all your cards away at once, when you're willing to walk away rather than beg or compromise your integrity, that's when a woman starts seeing you differently. Not as the guy who's desperately trying to impress her, but as the man who knows his worth and doesn't give it away too easily. So next time you feel that irresistible urge to over-explain your feelings, pause. Next time you feel the panic rising when she doesn't reply right away, breathe. Next time you're tempted to pour your heart out after only 2 dates, hold steady. Let her feel just enough healthy uncertainty to stay emotionally invested, without ever doubting your fundamental strength, your unwavering presence, or your deep integrity. Remember, attraction doesn't solely grow in comfort. It thrives in a healthy tension. And a little uncertainty, the right kind, might just be the spark that makes her see you not as just another guy, but as the one she can't stop thinking about. Attention is her drug. Don't be the dealer. Let's be brutally real for a moment. Attention is one of the most powerful currencies in today's hyper-connected world. And when it comes to relationships and attraction, your attention as a man is far, far more valuable than you've ever been told. Every time you double text her, every time you like all her posts within seconds of her uploading them, every time you comment, call, compliment excessively, and constantly remind her that you're there for her, you're spending that precious currency like it's utterly worthless. And she feels it. She may not say it out loud. She may not even consciously articulate it. But she instinctively knows when a man is giving her more energy, more attention, than she's truly earned or reciprocated. And whether she consciously realizes it or not, the moment she senses that profound imbalance, something shifts within her. Not because she's manipulative, not because she's cruel, but because constant, unearned attention, like anything in excess, creates one thing: emotional numbness. It's like hearing your absolute favorite song played on repeat 100 times a day. Eventually, it loses all its magic, all its spark. It just becomes background noise. Most men are, quite frankly, handing out their attention for free. No standards, no filter, no awareness of its immense value. You think that by giving her more, by showering her with it, she'll value you more. But in reality, the more freely and indiscriminately you give it, the less weight it carries. You become background noise. You become unremarkable. And let's be honest, this isn't just about her. It's profoundly about you. When you're constantly giving attention, constantly seeking her approval, you're shifting your focus away from your own purpose, your own growth, your own discipline, your own well-being. You're pouring all your emotional energy into trying to get a reaction from her. That's not leadership. That's not strength. That's not truly masculine energy. That's emotional dependency, often dressed up as love. Here's the uncomfortable truth again. Women crave attention. It's a natural human desire. But they profoundly respect the men who don't throw it at them indiscriminately. Not in a spiteful way, not in a deliberate withholding way, but in a way that clearly communicates, my time matters, my energy is valuable. I don't give it to someone just because they look good. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to build something real, something meaningful. That kind of energy, that kind of self-respect, hits different because it's rare, because it's valuable, because it shows you're in control of yourself and your own life. We live in a world saturated with cheap validation. Likes, comments, views, stories, reactions, DMs. Everyone's getting attention, but very few are getting genuine respect. And here's the kicker. The man who's quick to give attention often gets the least in return. Why? Because he's seen as replaceable, as just another source of validation. But the man who doesn't chase, the one who's primarily focused on his mission, the one who gives presence and intentional attention without being desperate, he becomes unforgettable. Because he's not addicted to giving attention, and she can feel that rare, powerful self-possession. This doesn't mean you go cold. It doesn't mean you ignore her or act disinterested. That's a childish game. It means you give your attention with intention. When you speak to her, your words are meaningful, not just filler. When you compliment her, it's rare, genuine, and therefore it lands deeply, making a real impact. When you show interest, it feels earned, not automatic or obligatory. And when that happens, you stop being just another guy in her DMs. You become the standard. So here's the challenge, right here on Stoic Love. Stop being her emotional dealer, constantly supplying her with cheap hits of your attention. Stop giving attention just because you're afraid she'll forget you, or move on, or find someone else. Stop chasing connection through constant shallow interaction. Start standing still. Start building your life, your empire, your purpose. Start giving your most precious energy to the things that actually build your value, your character, your future, and let her meet you there. Because the moment you stop trying so hard to impress her is often the moment she starts genuinely paying attention to you. Your purpose turns her on, not your texts. Let's stop sugarcoating it, men. Most of us have lost our edge, our masculine drive, our powerful sense of direction. You're too focused on saying the right thing, texting at the right time, crafting the perfect message just to keep her attention. You're living in your phone, constantly checking for notifications, when you should be living in your mission, your real-world progress. You're chasing women when you should be chasing progress, building your legacy, conquering your goals. And then you wonder why she's slipping away, why her interest is waning. It's not because you're not romantic enough in a superficial sense. It's because you've forgotten how to be a man with a powerful, unwavering purpose. Let this hit hard if it needs to. She doesn't want a man who's obsessed with her, constantly orbiting her world. She wants a man who's obsessed with something bigger than her. When a woman sees a man so consumed by his goals, so deeply rooted in something meaningful and challenging that extends beyond a relationship, she pays attention. Not because he's explicitly trying to impress her, but precisely because he isn't. There's something incredibly magnetic, almost primal, about a man who doesn't flinch when she pulls away, a man who doesn't panic if she doesn't reply to a text for hours, a man who has something so important, so consuming, so deeply fulfilling going on in his life that her presence becomes a bonus, a beautiful addition, not a desperate lifeline. That's the energy women instinctively feel. That's the powerful presence they notice. That's the mindset that makes them lean in, curious, attracted. Not because you're trying harder to win her, but because you're already full, already complete within yourself. The core problem is this, gentlemen. Far too many men make women their ultimate goal, not a thriving business, not unwavering discipline, not peak health, not a compelling purpose, not a lasting legacy, just her. And as soon as she senses that, as soon as she becomes your sole focus and ultimate pursuit, the entire dynamic collapses. She instinctively becomes the leader of the relationship, and you, by default, become the follower. And guess what? She didn't sign up to lead you. She wants to feel safe with you. She wants to feel inspired by you, to look up to your direction and drive. And she simply cannot do that if you're constantly adjusting your life, your mood, your entire self around her mood swings and her message replies. This isn't just about attraction, my friends. This is profoundly about identity. Who are you when she's not around? What are you building that doesn't revolve around her validation, her approval, her presence? If your whole sense of confidence, your entire self-worth, rises and falls with how she treats you, how she responds to you, then you're not truly in love. You're lost. Here's what every man needs to understand. A fundamental truth from Stoic love. A woman doesn't want to be your escape from reality, from your lack of purpose. She wants to be a cherished part of your existing mission, not the mission itself. You can text her sweet things. You can show up with effort. You can make her feel valued. But none of that truly matters. None of it will create lasting attraction if you have no direction, no compelling purpose, no trajectory of your own. Because deep down, every high-quality woman is instinctively asking herself one critical question. Where is he going? And can I respect the man who's leading this journey? If you have no compelling answer to that question, no daily structure, no long-term goals, no unwavering discipline, no clear vision, then what exactly are you inviting her into? What kind of future are you offering? Attraction isn't ultimately about words. It's about powerful, resonant energy. And there's nothing more attractive, more magnetic, than a man who wakes up every single day with a burning, unshakable purpose, not just for her, but for himself, for his body, his mind, his mission, his future. So here's your wake-up call, gentlemen. Stop sitting around waiting for replies. Stop checking your phone like it's your very heartbeat. Stop begging for attention and validation when you should be building something so incredible, so compelling, that she wants to be a part of it. Because at the end of the day, it's not your saccharine good morning texts that truly turn her on. It's your grind. It's your growth. It's your self-control. It's your ability to disappear into the work, to focus on what matters, even when she's testing your boundaries. And when she sees that, when she truly realizes you're not just talking about greatness, you're living it, that's when the entire game changes. Validation makes you weak in her eyes. Here's something most men never fully realize. A subtle but deadly trap. The more you overtly seek her validation, the less she instinctively respects you. You might think telling her how beautiful she is 10 times a day will win her over. You might think showing her that you're available 24/7 will make her feel secure and loved. You might think agreeing with everything she says, never challenging her, makes you more likable and agreeable. But in her mind, often subconsciously, what it really does is expose your profound need for her approval. And nothing, absolutely nothing, kills attraction faster than a man who needs her to make him feel like a man, who needs her to validate his very existence. Validation is a silent killer of attraction. It sneaks into your words, your actions, your choices. It makes you constantly ask, was that okay? Did I say the right thing? Does she approve? It makes you second-guess yourself, your instincts, your very identity. When she doesn't respond exactly how you hoped, it makes you mold your personality, your opinions, your entire self to fit what you think she wants, rather than standing firm in who you are. But here's the fundamental problem with that approach. If you're constantly looking to her for reassurance, for confirmation of your worth, you're telling her, without ever saying a word, that you don't fully believe in yourself. That's not strength. That's not genuine masculinity. That's not leadership. That's dependence, emotional dependence. And whether she admits it or not, whether she even understands it herself, she feels it. And when she feels it, she starts pulling away, because that energy isn't inspiring. Because women don't fall for men who chase approval. They fall for men who don't need it. You have to be the kind of man who validates himself, who knows who he is, what he stands for, without needing constant praise or affirmation from anyone, especially not from a woman he's pursuing, who speaks his mind and stands by it, not for drama or argument, but because his identity doesn't sway with the wind, doesn't shift based on external reactions. When you stop looking for her to clap for you, to affirm you, she starts watching you differently, curiously, respectfully. Even desire begins to grow, because now she sees a man who stands on his own, an unshakable force. So stop trying to impress her. Stop seeking her approval. Start being deeply grounded in who you are, independent of her reaction. Validation feels good in the short term, like a quick hit, but self-respect, that quiet, internal knowing of your worth, lasts infinitely longer and builds far more meaningful attraction. And if you want to be the man she can't ignore, be the man who doesn't ask for her approval. Be the man who already knows he's enough. The truth most men never hear. Let's end this with a statement that might offend some people. But here on Stoic Love, we're committed to the truth, and it needs to be said. Most women aren't ultimately attracted to love in the way men often define it. That soft, unconditional, boundaryless adoration. They're attracted to power, not political power, not necessarily physical power, though that can be a component, but personal power. The power of a man who doesn't need her attention to feel valuable, to feel complete. The power of a man who isn't shaken, isn't derailed by rejection or a negative reaction. The power of a man who knows who he is, what his purpose is, and doesn't beg anyone to see it or validate it. That kind of man, that man of genuine personal power, he becomes unforgettable. Because he's not chasing. He's not trying to be something. He's simply being who he already is. And here's the hard truth a lot of guys need to hear. A truth that might sting, but can set you free. If you constantly give love with no boundaries, no standards, and no compelling purpose of your own, you're not loving. You're leaking. You're leaking insecurity. You're leaking desperation. You're leaking the misguided belief that being enough simply means being constantly available and agreeable. But you can't lead with neediness and expect to be respected. You can't overgive your attention, your energy, your emotional investment, and then wonder why she pulls away or takes you for granted. You can't hand over your most precious energy and then blame her for not protecting it, for not cherishing it. That responsibility lies with you. It's not that women don't want love. They absolutely do. And deeply so. But they want it from a man who doesn't need them to feel whole, to feel complete. They want it from a man who chooses them after choosing himself first, after building a compelling life that stands on its own. Not the man who gives everything away, hoping against hope that she'll finally see him, finally appreciate him. And if you're that man right now, the one who's confused, hurt, or stuck in this self-defeating cycle, I want you to pause right now and ask yourself this profound question. What would my life look like if I gave half the attention, half the energy, half the emotional investment that I currently give to her back to myself? Back to your goals, to your mind, to your body, to your mission, to your future. That profound shift alone, that reprioritization of self, could change absolutely everything. If this message has hit home for you, if it's resonated with something deep inside, I genuinely want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me where you are in your journey. Have you been giving too much? Have you perhaps lost yourself in trying to be the perfect guy, the nice guy? Are you truly done being invisible, done being overlooked? I read every single message, and if you share something honest, something real, something vulnerable, I will personally respond. Not just to answer a question, but to genuinely connect, because that's what Stoic love is all about. It's about men building themselves up, together, fostering strength and purpose. This video wasn't made to shame you, to make you feel bad about your past actions or beliefs. Absolutely not. It was made to wake you up. It was made to shake you out of a narrative that has likely been holding you back. So now the question, the ultimate challenge, is this. Are you ready to stop chasing her, to stop seeking external validation and start becoming the man she genuinely can't ignore? Are you ready to build a life so compelling, so purposeful, that her presence becomes a cherished addition, not a desperate necessity? If so, I'll see you in the comments. And remember, the journey to becoming an irresistible man starts with self-mastery, with purpose, and with valuing yourself above all else. Welcome to Stoic Love. We're here to help you redefine attraction, one powerful truth at a time.